Alexander Lapping is actually the top of the X and 2 brackets, so he still has an outside shot of making the elimination rounds. If he wins both rounds, his tiebreakers are quite good. And we should be underway. So for those of you who missed earlier, Omar Vaencia, his deck is basically an Infect deck. The only creatures are Blighted Agent and Phyrexian Crusader on top of Inkmoth Nexus. And then the rest of the deck is Runechanter's Pike and Spell. So he has Mana Leak, Unsummoned, Virulent Wound, Ponder, Gitaxian Probe, Forbidden Alchemy. So it's sort of a aggro controller's deck that has some combo elements because Runechanter's Claw plus Forbidden Alchemy, you can sort of go off of the top boards and set up the right way.
Right, it feels like this. You can get lucky with your draws and just go turn 2 Blighted Agent and then Pike and get some damage in.
Yeah, you can win in some conventional ways. So Alex is starting off here with a Gitaxian Probe, revealing a hand of Mana Leak, Unsummoned, Blighted Agent, another Unsummoned, Gitaxian Probe, Swamp, and I don't remember the name, but the M12 Blue-Black Dual
Drowned Catacombs.
Drowned Catacombs. So a reasonable opening hand for Omar here. And Alexander just scribbling down real quick.
Right, so in this kind of situation, if Omar has done his research, if he has scouted, he might know that Alex is playing this kind of combo pod deck.
Yeah.
And doesn't really have much spot removal.
Yeah.
So he could lead out with that Blighted Agent early and try to just win quickly with that.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of relevant ways of disrupting what Alexander is up to. He has Mana Leak and Unsummon, which give him some amount of game in different situations, but he doesn't have a ton of interaction points game one. So he's basically married to just attacking with this curve of guys. But his hand's pretty well suited. You know, he has a creature and a Mana Leak and some.
And Omar has the
utility
probe,
beyond,
which he casts right here, so he's going to get a good look at what's going on. And he's going to see that this is
Ponder, Birthing Pod, Grand Architect, an island, another island, and a Worm Coil engine. So the cat is out of the bag. If Omar didn't know already that something funky was going on, he knows now.
So now that we can see Alex's hand here, he's got a situation where he's going to probably Ponder and then go into a turn 3 Grand Architect, or probably play the Architect, and then he can use that mana on the following turn to play the Pod and do what? Sacrifice Architect. That's the thing. What? Alex's 4-drops seem really lacking.
Well, he has a Molten Tail Massacre that he can go get, and that is basically...
And the 4 Phyrexian Metamorphs, which you need something to copy.
Right. But when you have Grand Architect, you're probably just trying to skip 4. You're just going all the way upstairs. So
it looks like the plan with this deck, you don't want to sacrifice the Architect. You want to keep that around for the mana.
Right.
And it's really the Pod sacrificing Oculus to get the Architect.
Right. So it looks like his deck's got a bunch of lines to it. So he did not cast his Ponder on, which I think is actually reasonable if...
Yeah, he wants to...
have more information on his draws before, depending on what kind of selection he wants to do.
He wants to be able to keep a couple of cards on top and then possibly shuffle with the Birthing Pod.
So, also, just Mana Leak potentially is a line there as well. So... Omar passed on turn 2 instead of casting his Blighting Agent. So,
he's playing it safe.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is that Alex's deck is so overpowering once the ball starts rolling that I don't think he has the luxury of kind of waiting all day here. So he's going to play a Snapcaster Mage and flashback Gitaxian Probe. Get something on the board here.
Get something on the board, draws another card.
And this is really a beautiful way of playing around that Mana Leak. This turn was very good for Alex, and he didn't actually, really lose anything of value. If I was Omar, I probably would have leaked there just because, is your plan to pass again on turn 3? I just don't see that resulting in a... I don't know what your plan is at that point.
And those unsummons are really bad against Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah. And basically Alex's whole deck. So...
So Omar plays his Drowned Catacomb.
This is the issue with playing it slow. Is
what is he going to do
now?
here?
Does he pass again? So it's a tough situation.
And yet he knows that Birthing Pod is lurking.
Yeah. Although, yes, that is another
So-
source of concern.
So Omar keeping the mana leak up.
I think if, as long as Omar isn't applying any pressure, I think Alex is pretty happy to sort of incrementally build up this board and improve his hand. Not really run anything significant into.
What is
So
that?
here's the
It's
Oculus.
Oculus. Come on, you played it in limited, right?
So you want to mana leak that guy? I don't know, maybe. So yeah, Alex is pretty much content to just advance this board without exposing anything to the mana leak. Anything of value to the mana leak. Not to say the Oculus doesn't have value, but you know.
I played Oculus a lot, probably too much in limited.
Right,
I
so-
really liked getting value out
Oh,
of it.
I love an Oculus too.
So now Omar finally decides on turn 4 to play Blighted Agent with the mana leak backup. So he's going to get his poison clock started. But it might be too late. Alex has been picking up a lot of card advantage here. And he may be crafting the perfect hand.
Right. I mean, his deck is so top heavy that at some point he's going to have to expose something to a mana leak. Ideally, it's in a scenario where he can at least play 2 spells in one turn. But yeah, he's just trying to figure out how he wants to work around this leak. He could run his Architect out there into it. He could also run his Pod, so it's just an issue of which one he values less. Because either one is probably good enough to induce a mana leak out of Omar.
Yeah, and he
So
goes
he's
with the pod.
gonna go for the Pod. That almost certainly gets mana leaked.
Get out of here. Attack for 3. Yeah, and meanwhile, the little guys, the dorky guys, are chipping away. Omar's going down to 13 here.
So his hand is still a couple of unsummons and some lands. I don't see anything beyond that.
Poison. Alright, so Omar attacked with a Blighted Agent, and he plays an Inkmoth Nexus, so that'll help his clock a little bit.
All right, there's the Architect. Does he have another leak?
He does. Omar with the second mana leak. That's going to keep him in this game.
So a Pike would be a huge draw here.
Yes, a room.
He's still not doing that poorly because the unsummons can keep Alex off of a lot of his big plays, but as it currently stands, this is a pretty slow clock. I mean, just the Oculus and the Snapcaster are doing plenty of work.
But you're right, with 2 unsummons, it's kind of... Oh. Ratchet Bomb from Alex.
Alright, so there's the Grand Architect.
And he could go 2/4/6 Worm Coil here off of the blue creatures.
Yep. I mean, he does know about Omar's unsummon, so I guess he's just bashing. Unsummon on the Grand Architect.
Main phase counter on the Ratchet Bomb.
Yeah, Omar is flooding out a little bit here. If he draws a Pike at any time, it is just lethal. But
Yeah, there's what, 2 leaks and a probe in
and
his
an
yard?
unsummon and another unsummon in his hand.
So yeah, he could get up to +5. This is it. This is going to be a crucial turn here
Yep.
for both players.
So we're gonna replay the Architect.
Resolves, cast.
Phyrexian Metamorph.
Copies the Architect.
Yep.
Another Metamorph?
Another Metamorph.
Copying the Architect. So then we forget, Grand Architect is also a crusade
Yeah.
for blue creatures.
So he is.
So that's threatening
This is
lethal right
this
here.
is presenting lethal.
It's so caught up in the mana acceleration that the very underrated blue crusade ability. So this is going to force the other unsummon now.
Yep.
Or what does he got?
He has two
of them.
2 more unsummons. So
Returning-
Omar is still facing lethal next turn. Now it's just an issue if he draws a pike or not. Is that the 4th unsummon?
Yikes. No one expects the 4th one.
No.
But even still, it's...
No one expects the first one.
Unless he holds back his creatures, this is going to be lethal no matter what. So
Yeah.
he has to attack. Puts him to 7 poison. 7 poison counters. And then what? I mean, he has to pass here and just hope that somehow Alex does not attack with the correct number of creatures.
Which
and
is
lets him unsummon.
Which is any number is like 2, basic 2 or more.
Yeah, because the Oculus and the Snapcaster are going to keep
so there's a
coming.
concession.
So he doesn't even try to hold that bluff.
So let's take a look at the sideboards here. Omar actually doesn't look like he has a ton of action here to bring in. He has a Black Sun Zenith, which is marginal, potentially okay. 2 Curse of Death Hole, 2 Witchbane Orbs, 2 Corrupted Consciousness, 2 Sword of Feast and Famine, 3 Ratchet Bombs, and 3 Black Spell Bombs. None of these seem especially good about what's going on here.
What do you... At most, you might bring in, like...
The Spell Bomb...
Corrupted Conscience?
No, I think that, like...
There's not much.
Right, I think the Spell Bomb is fine because you have... because of Snapcaster Mage, and he doesn't know this, but there's a couple Buried Ruins in Alexander's deck as well. So the Spell Bomb's okay. And on the other side, we have a Scab Ruinator, 3 Flash Freezes, a Worm Coil, a Treasure Mage... Oh, sorry, 2 Treasure Mages, rather. A Ratchet Bomb, 4 Negates, and 3 Spell Skites. So there's an argument for Negate being reasonable, and that's kind of it also over here. So not a ton of sideboarding to be done, I think, between these 2 decks, but I have been surprised before about this kind of stuff.
Scab Ruinator? As a singleton?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess if with Pod,
yeah, it's a
you just bring it in as a nice singleton to search up.
Right.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that was what people were talking about at first.
You can go Oculus into Ruinator.
Oh, that's
not a bad opening.
Oculus into Scab Ruinator. Okay, so we've both been saying Scab Ruinator, but I hear some people call it Scab Ruinator. Is that a legit pronunciation?
I mean, I try not to get in those kind of arguments with people about. I
don't like to argue about it, but I was just curious what you think. Like,
I call it Scab.
Because
if I'm wrong,
it feels like that's what it should be because it's like this patched together zombie.
Right. If I'm wrong, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll still call it Scab.
Yeah. Personally, I don't care, but it's just Scab. Maybe it is.
Yeah. So sideboarding was done pretty quickly here, which is not super surprising given that I don't think either player really has a ton for the other. I mean, you can bring in. I guess Alexander probably wants another Ratchet Bomb. I guess it's reasonable, but.
Omar's thinking about something here.
Well, I mean, the Corrupted Conscience is sort of... It's a weird sort of thing, right? Because there's an expectation that when your opponent is playing Birthing Pod, that
something
huge
is going to come out.
But if your opponent has Pod online, then it just, like, basically doesn't matter if you steal a random guy. Pod is sort of unchecked. It's just pretty much game over.
Yeah, you need the answer to the Birthing Pod itself.
Right.
Which he doesn't really have.
Yeah, he has a 1-negate main deck. He has Ratchet Bombs, which are, pretty poor, I think, and certainly not good at answering a Birthing Pod in an expedient fashion. So,
yeah, I really think Omar needs to come out with a more aggressive draw. He should have dropped that Blighted Agent on turn 2.
Yeah, I think that
now that he's seen the deck in action.
Right. Yeah, I just don't think any sort of late game favors Alex so heavily that yeah, you tap out on turn 2, and yeah, your opponent gets to cast a Grand Architect, which is pretty bad for you, but the alternative is worse, where you're just turn 5 is the first turn of the game, you're finally attacking him, and by that time, almost any sequence of cards from Alex's deck is going to be enough to overwhelm you.
Right. The thing is that Alex went first in that game, so that certainly changed the dynamic. Yep. If Omar goes first here and goes turn 2 Blighted Agent, he's going to feel a lot more comfortable about leaving his defenses down on that turn.
Yeah. No, it is a big difference right there. So while we're waiting, what is it exactly that you do kind of like Monday through Friday? You actually live in Roanoke and work like in Star City's facility, or is it?
Yeah, I'm the events travel coordinator for the events department, which means I coordinate all of the flights and hotels for the open weekends, which this year is like every weekend.
Yes.
And we also send some sales crews to Grand Prix as well, so I have to make sure that they can get to the Grand Prix. I have a lot of expertise, I guess, relatively speaking, to other Magic players and judges in terms of booking flights and stuff. So that's what I've primarily been doing, and here we go.
All right, game 2 underway. Catacombs for Omar and a basic island for Alex.
Do it, blighted agent. Oh.
Well, he might not have it. He has 2 leaks in his hand again. There he is.
You're gonna leak the Oculus? It's like I guess I'll mana leak that. And he's not going to.
Magic players, if you will please take a second to look at the table around you. We are looking for a red deck box. This particular deck box.
Not gonna hold up leak. He's just gonna
get in there with Ink Moth.
If you have located this deck box, please bring it up to the front stage. No questions will be asked.
Hinterland Harbor.
I'm pretty sure I saw the Rune Chanter's pike in Omar's hands. I feel like he should have just leaked to get that pike bigger at some point.
Yeah, especially if he's going to go turn 3, If you go turn 2, you just leak the Oculus. Turn 3, you go...
Don't do anything.
Play pike. You go play pike. Turn 4, you can go equip ship. You actually have some real pressure going, but...
I guess the problem is that his offense is an Inkmoth Nexus, and that just takes up even more mana to activate, equip, and attack.
And try to cast spells in the meantime to get your pike to be bigger.
Yeah, so that would take 4 mana total. So yeah, I feel like you should just cast these instants whenever you can to grow the pike.
So he's going to say go here.
Well, that's a Spellskite. So Alex Lapping has boarded in his Spellskites to absorb.
It's not super clear.
The unsummons. I think Spellskite's a kind of a fine disruption card because sometimes people will just flat out misplay into it.
It is definitely challenging to play against. All right, so they have a Forbidden Alchemy.
Omar is going to try to build up this graveyard, dump some instants.
And this is where we might get a presentation of the power level of this blue-black deck. And its ability to just sort of generate a ton of damage out of nowhere. It's challenging to interact with.
Right, this is potentially +4 for the pike.
Yeah, well, he can't equip in the same turn, and he's also... Alex has mana leak, at least 1, to protect him from some number of shenanigans, but...
We need that graveyard. Graveyard vision.
Alright, he tries to resolve a Blighted Agent.
Secret agent, man. Secret. Have you ever seen David Hasselhoff's cover of Secret Agent Man?
I have not.
You should look it up sometime. It is epic. He does some fantastic high kicks.
I don't know. Anytime that I'm on YouTube and I can just be listening to like Only Built for Cuban Links or Liquid Swords, it's sort of hard for me to motivate myself to like kind of watch other things, basketball videos. I mean, there's a lot of things vying for my attention, so.
You need to get in touch with your inner German and just look up the Hasselhoff. Alex is going to ponder here.
It's funny, both of them holding up Mana Leak just sort of makes it...
And not playing anything worth countering.
Right.
Puts the cards on top, draws 1.
Draws a fresh Ponder, which I guess he's just casting now.
Alex is he's playing more instants here. He should have a pike. Everyone should be playing this pike. Seems like a good card.
Yeah, it is a little bit of an awkward card because ideally you want it in a deck
with creatures
to
equip to,
and a bunch of instants and sorceries. Just finding the right balance of all that stuff is not the easy thing to do, but in the appropriate deck, it's obviously pretty awesome.
But that makes it a good card in the sense that you have to think a little bit more about it.
Yep.
You don't just put it in every deck.
Yep. Like the swords or whatever the case.
Skull Clamp.
You had to have one toughness guys to play with Skull Clamp. That's a decision.
I thought it was funny that they thought it was a drawback to make it -1 toughness.
Yeah, this is what happens when you make changes at the last minute to files. Generally, it's best to avoid doing that.
Here we go. There's the pike.
It's a little weird to cast the pike after combat there, before combat, because like, what happens if your pike resolves? What if Alex doesn't mana leak it? Then you just get to equip, right? I don't know what the motivation is to attack first.
Trying to draw some kind of unsummon effect or something.
Because like, you do it now, and he's not compelled to mana leak it. All right, so he leaks back. So it all works out the same way.
Well, he also could have just paid 3 there. So, let's see, 1 mana.
I mean, it's Unsummon or Virulent Wound.
Which against Oculus is not very spectacular. But it is +1 damage
or just
for the
potentially,
pike.
or it just potentially increases his clock if he's just not going to have time to cast that mana leak at some later point.
Yeah, that's an important consideration.
So there are theoretical motivations for running it that way.
So Architect into Birthing Pod. Here we go.
Here we go.
Chugging.
It's Oculus time.
Sack the Oculus.
Time for an upgrade. So he's unsummoning something in response, it looks like?
In response to the pod?
Yeah.
Oh, so he's unsummoning the Grand Architect. Alex is tapping the Oculus for Grand Architect mana in response. So it can only be used for artifact, spells, or abilities. Tap the Birthing Pod. And an Oculus gives birth to what? An awkward image. Treasure Mage?
Oculus is not the first one to go. Oh, it's possible he's just going and getting
another Architect?
What did he just sacrifice? An Architect or a
He sacked the Oculus. The Architect was unsummoned.
So it's possible. Does he have enough mana to go get Exarch and turn Exarch into Molten Steel Massacre and then kill the Blighted Angel with his... Oh, he's getting Mindslaver.
But he can't cast it this turn.
Oculus into Treasure Mage into Mindslaver.
He can recast his Architect and then tap for 4 artifact mana. Or does he have mana floating from the Oculus? 1, 2, 3... Yeah, I think he has some mana floating from the Oculus. Being tapped for the Architect. Spellskite.
There's a Mindslaver.
Wait, where's the Architect? Yeah, you can't do that. He was trying to make the Spellskite blue and then tap it for mana. Forgot that the Architect got unsummoned.
All right, so let's back up here.
Give that man a game rule violation. You're looking at me funny.
Can never turn the judge off, huh? Can never
Can
never
take
just turn
the
it
judge off the farm, but not the farm out of the judge.
Yeah, seriously, I guess.
I don't know.
Do you ever watch matches at home and just like dream of procedural violations you can give people play?
I often want to give slow plays from my couch.
Sure, that's fair.
I'm like, this is taking too long. But to be fair, we don't know, who caught that mistake. He could have caught it himself and backed it up, so we'll trust in the judge on site over there. How much damage is that? Because he equipped the pike. We're on Omar's turn now. He equipped the pike, unsummoned, activated. I'm guessing it has to be lethal based on the way he kind of.
Omar's body language is definitely that of a man with lethal.
Yeah, there you go. Can I get them to keep the graveyards on camera? Look, I'm the judge, you're the red mage. You know, we got to be true to ourselves, right?
That is true, but I don't, I'm not on camera actively rooting for the red deck guy when he's on camera, you know
I wasn't rooting, I was just making sure that the rules are being followed.
I wish we could run the tape back right now, but I'm pretty sure you said someone give that guy
a
rules violation, a game rule violation.
Yeah.
Man.
He committed an infraction, saying let's follow the rules here.
Oh, I understand, but the players were able to resolve it amongst themselves.
I said that. I said he might have caught it himself and backed it up.
So what are your thoughts on the proposed rules changes to mandatory triggers no longer being the opposing player's responsibility?
It's unclear what the final result is going to be, right? Because they rolled out a new IPG last December.
Yep.
And said this is what it's going to be in it, and it seemed a little too far, and that the reaction was like, whoa. So I understand what seems to be their motivation, and I hope to see, a more moderate IPG come out.
So what do you think the motivation is?
I think they want to see people not have to play for their opponents, right? In terms of the triggered abilities, be like, dude, you forgot your triggered ability, I'm actually dead. Like, you've been in games like that, right? Where
I would much rather have it work like that than have to pay super, super sharp attention to my opponent at all times, knowing that if he misses like mandatory negative trigger X and I'm not like on it like a hawk, that we just pass through it.
I don't know if that's... I think they're going to have the different classifications. Like, I think it's going to be if they miss a mandatory trigger that's beneficial to them, and you're like, you forgot that, you can do that. I don't know. I think the best thing to do is just wait and see what happens.
Sure.
And then we can start talking about it, because
I believe very strongly in the philosophy that it is both players' responsibility to maintain an accurate game state. And anything that sort of deviates from that philosophy, I'm very apprehensive about, because then it encourages, I believe it can encourage a level of gamesmanship about that kind of stuff, which is what I think tournament Magic used to be back in the day, and what is bad for the game to be about. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I played 10 years ago where somehow the rules were both more lax about cheating and draconian about things that don't actually matter.
Yeah.
And there was a reversal in that philosophy at some point, I can only assume, between the innocent stuff where people aren't cheating, where it's obvious that there's some just sort of confusion or someone missed something. Let's not throw the book at those people, because that used to be a thing. Let's actually try to catch people who are cheating in the act of cheating and disqualify them, which I also don't think was enough of the active philosophy of the judging staff 10 or 11 years ago. Maybe I'm biased because when I first broke through in the Pro Tour, I mean, it's like the rogues gallery of known cheaters that were just allowed to continue to play in tournaments was pretty long. But
yeah, and then the era when people got DQ'd for very innocent things. Like there's a story...
Accidentally missing a braids trigger or something like that, where people are just DQ'd and it's just absurd.
Well, there's a story, the rumor, I don't know if it's true, but supposedly Toby Elliott, level 5 judge, was once disqualified for a tournament for misregistering his deck.
Right.
Like, this was a disqualification, like, oops, I made a mistake and registered 59 instead of 60.
Right.
Like, DQ.
And not only does that kind of stuff do damage to, like, people who go to tournaments all the time and make random innocent mistakes, also, the type of people who are most likely to commit those kind of infractions are people playing in their first or second or third tournament and getting disqualified and told that you have to go home over something as silly as, I wrote, 3 instead of 2 and there's 3 in my deck and it's a mistake. Having people get DQ'd over that kind of stuff, if that's your first tournament, like, a lot of people just are not coming back.
Yeah. And because of the feedback there's been great strides at competitive, but especially at the regular REL levels of let's just take it easy, guys.
Right, yeah.
Both amongst judges and players, I feel. The FNMs that I've gone to, I've seen a lot more, friendly play, like, oh, it's okay, you can take that back kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where when I first started playing FNM, people were really like, playing PTQ style, like holding their opponent to
well,
things.
even like PTQs, 7 or 8 years ago, like if you had something like Ratchet Bomb, where like you kind of start to.
Oh yeah, you put your hands on your card.
And you start to untap, and then you're like, eh. And
I wanna
back in the day, that would have been a snap. Call a judge, and we're gonna sit here and argue whether or not your hands ever left your lands. It's just ridiculous.
The chess rule.
Right. It's just yeah. Did you draw an extra card? Well, So it looks like both players are mulliganing here.
They're laughing.
Yeah. See? Good sportsmanship, engenders good feelings.
I know.
It's how it should be, man.
But just don't play slow.
Yeah,
especially when I'm watching on camera, because I get bored.
Yeah, slow play is something that, that's the one thing where, as a player, I'm sort of like, the one thing that can make me a little edgy or rude is that stuff.
So while they're shuffling, potentially mulliganing, I just want to talk to you real quick about Grand Prix Orlando.
Big shout out to some Star City people here.
You can't watch their stream anymore because they were on the East Coast. They're done. So keep it here on SCG Live. And SCG's very own Jerry Thompson is one of 4 undefeated players.
9-0. Very nice.
That guy, he's going to break out this year, right?
He's
sort one of those
breaking
guys,
out for the last couple of years, right?
I mean, at the Pro Tour level.
Sure.
Is this the time? Jerry Thompson, top 8.
It's kind of,
win a Pro Tour.
That dude is working hard. It's obvious he's one of the best American players, period.
Yeah.
So, would not surprise me if he commits himself to it, where this is the year,
And then also I saw Mox Superstar, Magic Online Championship Series Superstar, Reed Duke was 1 loss behind him at 24 points.
It looks like Alex is going to 5 here.
Uh-oh.
And Omar kept his 6.
We also had Michael Jacob at
we have a variety of X2s.
7-1-1, and then Patrick Chapin, Godenis Vitiguris, and Raphael Levy, who won Grand Prix Austin. All 3 of those guys were at 7-2. So some Star City Games riders making day 2 at Grand Prix Orlando. Standard as well over there.
Yeah. Grinders. Grinders 1 and all.
We did not see the deck lists.
Right.
No deck lists were up, but probably Pike also doing some damage.
Did you hear what the attendance figure was for that event?
950 or 60 something.
Okay.
Just a shade under 1,000 in Orlando. Sunny Orlando. And here we are in sunny Los Angeles. Ricky Hayashi here with Patrick Sullivan. We're in round 8 of the Star City Games Standard Open, waiting for these guys to resolve mulligans. And it looks like they are going. Lands are being played. So yeah, there it is. Alex mulligan down to 4 cards.
And we have 3 lands and an Architect, which is
pretty
reasonable.
That's a really good 4-card hand.
As far as 4-card hands go, yep.
But now Omar can really sit on that mana leak and just be like, I know what's going on now.
Hand's ice cold to a mana leak, but
if he doesn't have it, live the dream.
They never not have it.
Slam it on turn 3.
I assure you, they never not have it. They have it 100% of the time.
Every time?
100%. Oh wow!
All right, he's holding it up. Slam it. Oh, there it is.
Shocking.
How did you know?
Because I've been playing Magic for a very long time.
Every time they have mana leak.
They never not have it. One of my favorite all-time Tim Aidenisms. Never not have it. So we got in for 1 with the Nexus here.
Omar could just take his time now.
I don't know if Alex lands at Birthing Pod, 1 creature, and then the engines are running, man.
He has to draw the pod and then the creature. Oh, taps 3. The second Architect. Oh, it's all into pod. What?
As far as mulligans to 4 go, I have seen much worse.
His opening hand was land, 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 architect. So he's drawn runner, runner, architect, pod.
Hey, mulligan for him, man. He was looking for his draw.
That's amazing. Wow. Now Omar's like, wait a minute. I thought I won this game.
Yeah.
Now you got to play, Omar. What are you going to
Yeah.
do? You got to play Magic.
Yeah. No freebies. No free lunches.
Oh, wow. Runner, runner into architect and pod. The problem here is, though, like we said, Alex doesn't have much going on at the 4 spot.
Right.
He doesn't. His deck is not really designed to sacrifice the Grand Architect to Birthing Pod. So he would ideally like to get something like an Oculus here, and then he can really go nuts and just sack Oculus, get Treasure Mage, and then get some monster.
Like his 4s are Phyrexian Metamorph, which has really nothing to copy. A Molten Tail Masticore, which is not
Empty-handed almost.
Right, not where he really wants to be either.
But he's going to do it. Is he? No, the Architect. Ali Antrazi weeps when you sacrifice Grand Architect. He's going to get the... I guess he can just get the Masticore and try to go aggro.
I mean...
Finish him off real quick.
Whatever, this seems fine.
Gotta read that card. It's been a while.
I try to give that guy a little bit of burn every now and again. He's a hard-working man. Underappreciated and misunderstood.
Misunderstood?
Yeah.
How should we understand him?
It's just... He asks for a lot and he gives a lot in return.
Okay. I am failing to come up with an analogy.
A lot of love to give and receive.
Much like Patrick Sullivan.
There are some parallels, yes.
Molten Tail Patrick Sullivan. Now this gets interesting here.
Yeah, he has an unsummon and it's just an issue of where he wants to time it. So he's going to go to the head for 4.
It does have that ability.
Oh, yeah.
Now, does Alex have a 5 in here that he could sacrifice, like, level up the Masticore into? I don't think so.
Yeah, there's a Feast and Famine, which means next turn things start to get really ugly, especially with Alex already so far down on cards.
And having to feed the Masticore.
Yep.
Here we go. He drew a Ponder. So Ponder into Oculus, and then Oculus into like Treasure Mage maybe, or Architect.
Empty,
yes. I didn't really like the sacrificing of the Architect to get the Masticore because
I mean he's gonna. I mean where else does it go? That's the issue, right? Like
it was such a dead end play. And he was down on cards, so I can understand like going for it, you know, with a 4/4 that can dome you.
Right.
It's certainly valid, but
he also can't upgrade the Molten Tail Masticore. He has no 5s.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean. It's a dead end in terms of the pod engine, and also because you have to start pitching cards to it.
Obviously, I'm no
Oculus.
I'm no expert on Alex's style of deck here, but. It's a little weird to me. It seems like one copy of Precursor Golem could be pretty sweet.
Whoa.
So you can go from 4 to 5 and obviously plays well with Grand Architect and whatever else.
That's a good 5. What other good 5s are there? We should get the Twitterverse to give us some good 5s for a Birthing Pod deck.
Some
like
sweet
this.
5s, yeah.
You know,
preferably
like
artifacts.
for
Preferably
the
artifacts, but we're in the market for whatever.
5. So I pondered into Snapcaster Mage. Gonna ponder again? Yes. Where's that Oculus? I guess he can select the Snapcaster now, so now he can restart the chain.
Yeah, but he's not going to have that much time. I mean, his hand's about to get ripped up here.
And he's taking, yeah, it's gonna...
It's lethal. It is lethal in 2 turns.
Does he have an answer to the sword and or Inkmoth Nexuses that he can search for?
I mean, in theory, Deceiver Exarch could buy him a turn if he spends his turn trying to turn on a Nexus and equip, but he doesn't have much in the way of long-term answers. He has Ratchet Bomb, but we're so far away from that being a thing that...
Architect. So Mindslaver could be a thing here. If he has 2, 4, 6, 7 mana for Mindslaver.
Well, Mindslaver is not very much more than Fog, basically.
Depends on what's in Omar's hand.
Omar could have some target removal, but
like if Omar gets stuck with a Virulent Wound somehow, like off his draw step. But yeah, this is just like bashing for four poison counters. And untap the lands, discard a card. Wow. I forget how powerful Sword of Feast and Famine is.
Yeah.
Oh, and he brought in the Corrupted Conscience.
So that's pretty sweet. I got a text from Billy Moreno, who works in Magic R&D just now,
Oh, yeah?
who said Precursor Golem and Acidic Slime. Those were the Slimer.
And he's got that green splash with the Hinterland Harbor.
I mean, it's not really Splash. He only has 3 Hinterland Harbors, and it's just for birthing pod.
The pod,
Yeah,
so you
for
don't have
pod,
to lose
yeah.
life. Yeah.
So he
Slime
can't really.
would be slime as just removal for swords.
Yeah, but he can't actually really cast a slime that he draws.
And
Also, Precursor Golem just kills someone, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it does.
Maybe it's bad with all the Vapor Snags floating around, but gotta live a little.
Hey, not everyone is playing Vapor Snag.
Someone suggested Wing Splicer. That's pretty good. I'm on board with a Wing Splicer.
Isn't that a 4?
That's a 5. It's the 5 mana.
Which
Gets
one
a
is
golem dude. They have flying or something.
Okay.
All right, there's the
Yeah.
concession. So Omar Vaencia wins to improve to 6-2.
Oh, that was... I got so excited when Alex went,
Yep.
Grand Architect Pod after that mulligan.
Yeah, that mulligan was that was an awesome mulligan to 4. That was, but
And that's why you play the game.
Right.
You mulligan to 4, you can still draw cards, you're still live. He was really like one more good
Gin
draw.
of Wishes. I can get behind this. This is why
Gin of Wishes.
I like that one too. This is why I actually love Birthing Pod. I was playing at GP San Diego. I was playing the Blue-Red Delver deck, and in the finals of that tournament, I played against like a Black-Green Birthing Pod deck.